May 1st is College Decision Day for many four-year colleges and universities, and that's just 2 weeks away. And Minnesota students are feeling the pressure to choose that next path. Dr. Erin Erickson of the Mom Enough podcast has 3 tips to help families with a student who's trying to choose a school right now. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
I thought it was fascinating that you do this podcast with your mother, who's a developmental psychologist as well.
Exactly, I do, yes. We've been at this for 17 years almost, so
Awesome.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your first tip of advice, both for students and for parents who are sort of on the fence of, oh, geez, did we get in? Where do we go? How do we choose?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing we need to take a look at is to take a step back and kind of look at what's happened in the college application process and how things have changed.
What do you mean?
Because we're seeing increasing competitiveness with the application process. Now we have the common application, so it's really easy for students to apply to a lot more schools than they would have historically. And also now so many schools have gone test optional, which is a great thing because that means if you have a child who has not done well on standardized tests, that no longer has to be a barrier for getting into the school that they would like to go to.
Does it make it more difficult then and more competitive, as you're saying?
Exactly, because we have an increase in submitted applications. So you have maybe historically people might have applied to 5 or 6 colleges, now it's maybe 7 or more, and I mean sometimes you hear of people applying to 10, 20 colleges. So each college is getting a lot more applications, so they can be a bit more selective in choosing who can go there. So that creates some challenges.
Okay, so then what's the second piece of advice for you now?
Yeah, well, so the biggest thing is just first to take some time to look at schools in your community. You know, that's a
start
great
local.
Yeah, start local. Or when you go visit grandma, check out the large public university, check out a small private school, maybe visit a technical school or a community college. That's a great way to get some information. And during that process, you're going to want to ask about financial aid.
Yeah.
So there's different types of aid. There's merit aid, there's need-based aid. Some schools don't offer merit aid, and how they define need may not meet the need of your family. So it's really important as you're going through that process to understand that.
How much should and does money play a role in the selection of the college you'd like to go to?
I think that plays a huge role because the price of college today is a lot more than it was when my parents were in college, for example. It might have been $100 or $1,000 a year. Some of these schools are upwards of $80,000 a year.
There was a tweet that blew me away recently about the U of M, that in 1960, you could go to school on a minimum wage job for 6 weeks.
Wow, it's remarkable.
In 1960.
Yeah.
That's obviously changed. What about proximity?
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure some people, is it what the student's comfortable with? Like, should you go far away? Should you not? How do you deal with that?
That's a really good question, and I would trust your child because ultimately this is the first step in their journey into adulthood and
Right.
kind of their path in life.
Right.
And so if you have a child that is wanting to look at schools away, I mean, there's great opportunities for online tours and things, so
Yep.
really trust your child. And I think the most important thing in this process is give your child space to make this decision. It's really hard as a parent because you're so excited. You want to talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Your child needs space to process. So I encourage parents to, set aside a time once a week and then just agree not to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then if your child approaches you and wants to talk about it, then you can have that conversation outside of that time.
Hurdles are hard, and it's a painful thing getting uncomfortable, but it all leads to growth, yeah?
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, growth is not free.
It's
it hurts.
not.
Yes.
That's true.
All right, Dr. Erickson, thank you so much for being here. We're very, very grateful for your tips.
Thank you for
Appreciate it.
having
And for more on this topic, you can tune in to this week's Mom Enough podcast. Mom Enough, that's a great name, by the way. MomEnough.com with Dr. Erin Erickson and her mom, like I said, the developmental psychologist, Dr. Marty Erickson. New episodes drop on Mondays, wherever you get your podcast. Thanks again.